All right. Well, my name is Nevina Cvetic. I'm the Executive Director of Leadership Professional Career Development at the Graduate College, and it's my pleasure to welcome you all to Grad Rebel Writing Bootcamp today. And for this week, Writing Bootcamp is a collaboration between the Graduate College, the Writing Center, and the university libraries. So we'll all be here this week to help assist you in your writing projects. We're very excited that you have decided to dedicate an entire week of getting focused and intentional about your projects, whether you're working on your proposals or your actual thesis or dissertations, professional papers, publications. We have research papers. We've put together a variety of workshops and resources that are going to help you on your journey this week. For those of you that are coming back, welcome back. We're glad that you enjoyed a previous bootcamp and that it was helpful to you and that you're back now. You'll see this week we do have a couple of new workshops and new topics that we wanted to mix up for those of you that are coming back here for your second or third time, but we do have some of our classics as well. So I just wanted to kind of orient everyone as to what's going to be happening this week and see if anyone has any questions. So each morning at 9, you will check into Remo just to kind of provide you some tips and tricks about the platform. When you first log in, you're going to be automatically dropped at a random table. So just take a few seconds to locate what table that you ended up on and then go ahead and move to the table that's labeled with the corresponding group you were assigned to. And then this is going to be your hub each day. You can move from table to table by double clicking on a seat. You can turn on your camera and unmute yourself to interact with others at your table. And you can also adjust your screen view to ensure you're seeing everything. And you can do this by the scroll of your mouse, or you can just do control plus or minus. You'll also see a chat button at the bottom panel of your screen next to that mic button. You can use the general chat. Everyone is going to see this, or you can use the table chat, which only the people at the same table as you are going to see that. Or you can use the private chat. So if you need to, for example, just message me with a question, only that person that you message will see it. If you do experience any technical issues, which sometimes does happen, we found logging in and out often does fix that. And so our team is also going to be in Remo, and you can chat me or Marlena or Ege if he's here if you have any questions. So at the start of each day, you're going to be allocating about 20 minutes to a group activity. Then beginning at around 9:30, we're going to have about 2 hours of focused writing time. Lunch break is going to be from 11:30 to 12:30. At around lunch break, I have to do some updates in Remo because we have a hourly limit. So basically, you might be during lunch break, you might not be able to access Remo for about like a 30-minute span, but from 12 to 5, you'll be able to come back in again. Starting at 1 o'clock each day, we're going to provide you with a set of optional workshops that you can attend. They're going to be hosted in WebEx, and we're going to share the link with you in the chat. So you can either, you can look at that, or you can look at the link that's on Canvas. So today's list includes getting started with ORCID or ORCID. I forget how to say that. And we're going to also be hosting a panel called Strategies for Surviving the Thesis and Dissertation Process from Recent Graduates. We're going to conclude the day around 4 p.m., but if you do want to continue writing, Remo is going to remain open until 5 p.m. We do also have a couple of students on an alternative schedule that will be starting at 5 p.m. and doing an evening and weekend, a kind of asynchronous schedule. We're going to be sending you a feedback form at the end of the week. We have done it in the past. We split it up into every day, but we're going to try to switch it up this week. So you're just going to have to fill one out on Friday. And every evening, you're going to receive an email about the next day's schedule and just with the corresponding links that are related to that. Does anyone have any questions so far? feel free to use the chat. You can't unmute yourself and ask because of the way Remo works, but you can definitely type it in the chat and I can answer any questions for you. Or if you think of anything else later, you can just find me sitting at the help desk. All right. So now we're going to move on to the fun part. To start our day off, I'm going to hand it over to Brittany Sterling. She's the Social Sciences and Interdisciplinary Studies librarian. She's going to share some resources about the libraries and things that you can take advantage of and do a bit of a icebreaker. So I'm going to bring her up to the stage. Let's see.
Hi, all. Can y'all hear me? Someone yes in the chat, please. Yes, can you hear me, Nev?
Yes, I can.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Thanks, Shannon, Evelyn. I appreciate y'all. Yeah, so I'm gonna talk to y'all a little bit about I'm sure at this point in your academic careers, because I can see what areas y'all are attending from. Hey Cecilia. You've definitely used the library, or at least that's my hope. If you haven't, or if you haven't, I'm hoping what I'll share with you this morning will help a little bit. And then I also, sort of the icebreakery part of this, will be some writing tips that help me, because librarians here, at least at UNLV, are also faculty. So we are also constantly writing and doing our own projects. And after the last few years that we've all had, hi Sherry. Yeah, any tips I know are helping me, because I am tired. So hoping that y'all are starting spring with a little more energy than me, but I have some tips that have helped me sort of get through fall. So let me share my PowerPoint real quick, and then I will show you some practical places to look on the library website. I see we're really science heavy in this boot camp, and I think sometimes y'all get neglected in looking for research. So I'm going to show you where to look. Hang on just a second while I share my screen. Thanks for bearing with me, because almost never works the first time. Okay, hang on just a sec, y'all. Here we go. Okay, I know this looks kind of wonky. I have to share it this way, because if I share it the entire way, then I won't be able to do anything else with y'all. So of course, good morning. I know we've already said that. Y'all know that I'm Brittany Sterling, Social Sciences and Interdisciplinary Studies librarian. That definitely also means, just a sidebar, everyone has a subject librarian. I will say this is probably a good time to announce our science librarian moved on to different pastures last semester. So did our data librarian. So for a lot of you science heavy folks that are going to need data help, please bear with us. We will help you as best we can, but unfortunately your librarians sort of have moved on. That doesn't mean don't ask. We'll do what we can, because we do have some statistics databases. So I just want to point that out while I'm thinking about it. Just real briefly, we're going to go over sort of what librarians can help you with, especially because we're running with a little bit of a skeleton crew this semester, and in the areas in particular that you all need. And so, of course, reviewing the field, things like lit reviews. I know a lot of you who are dissertating are probably past that point, but we have some librarians that are PhDs, and I know that things can change. Sometimes you hit a wall, sometimes you got to start over. So we can help you with that. Theory building, testing, sort of study design. A lot of us do original research projects as well. So if you have questions about that, there are folks who can at least give you their personal experience and sort of what's going on. In fact, I will do a workshop later on this week called Research Writing, which will sort of focus on the IRB process and all the extra bits of writing you don't know necessarily that you need to do if you're going to be doing an original research project. So if that'll be helpful to you, stay tuned. We also can help with like the reflection and conclusion bits, and then I'd change this from writing up results. We actually don't do that. We'll refer you to the writing center, but we can help you with like citation management. Okay. So apparently I have a double slide. Sorry, it's a Monday, y'all. I promise you I looked over this beforehand. Just real quick, I wanted to give you a few ideas about how to get the most out of your research consultation because they do go by so fast, and especially in the thick of the semester, people get pretty busy. So it may appear like we don't have a lot of appointments, and the truth is, we really just have a lot going on. We have professorial requirements and all kinds of other things. So, when you are making a research consultation appointment, you want to think about a few things. Having even the slightest narrowed down sort of idea about what you need help finding or exploring helps, especially I'm sure if you're at the dissertation phase, then you have that or you're getting there. But if you're like at the thesis stage or you're just getting started, just having some idea of like maybe a relationship between keywords or variables or even just like a loose research question will help you get the most out of your time with the librarian. Then we can also more easily help you do things like find data sets in a session. Like for me, for instance, because I'm interdisciplinary studies, I get a lot of people who've sort of made up their major or have heavy elements, maybe from a major that they haven't taken classes up to this point doing. So that helps me help you. We can also help with methodology or theory, depending on what your subject area is, and sort of how to help you find out how you need to sort of stack it all together. So planning ahead and giving yourself enough time definitely really, really, really helps a lot, helps us help you a lot. And I will say, even though that doesn't seem like the writing bit, I know for a lot of you, you can't get to the writing until you finish doing the research. So that's really why I'm pointing it out. I'm sure that you all know that by this point. Okay, so setting up library consultations. I'll show y'all this in a second when I go over to the library website. But I will show you how to find the librarian you need. We sort of went over what they're able to help you with already, but there's everyone has a little bit of a description underneath themselves, and then the scheduling system, how it works, and then we sort of talked about tips for having the best library experience, but I will show you what it looks like on the actual site so you know when you're trying to do it yourself. So, right before I do that, because we'll spend a lot of time over on the library website, I just wanted to give y'all some practical writing tips that have helped me, especially I would say I went up for mid tenure last year around this time, but have been doing projects nonstop since and before then. And so, I've got some Google extensions that I hope will save you from yourself. That's what I say because I'm easily distracted, or just help you focus. I know we all have alarms on our phones, but sometimes we get used to hearing them, right? And so sometimes you need something in your browser. So these are just a few that can help you with focused writing time. Just Focus is one, Pomodoro timer. There are many of them. You can honestly just Google them. You don't have to use an extension for that. We'll go into what that method is in a second. There's rescue time, which, if I remember correctly, is kind of like it'll lock you out of being able to do things like hop on over to Facebook or TikTok or Instagram for a certain amount of time if you actually set it and use it. And then Stay Focused is another version. All of these just have different versions of sort of how to keep you from getting distracted. So some of them lock you out of certain sites if you add them. Some of them are actually have a timer you can physically see counting down. Some of them will make you stay, let's say you're using Google Docs, only on your Google Docs page and you won't be able to do something else, which might drive some of you crazy and might be the solution you've been looking for. So just wanted to toss them out there. And then there are things like Stretch Clock, which is like it's a timer that has sort of like move in your chair yoga exercises. And then things like Word Tune, which is sort of like Grammarly, if y'all have heard of that, helps you with tone instead of spelling, though. So just tossing those out there if that will help your writing life at all. Just go over real briefly what the Pomodoro technique is if you've never heard of it. And it's really just a method for staying focused and mentally fresh. So, as y'all can see here, the steps are pretty simple. Pick a task, set a 25-minute timer, work on your task until the time is up. And usually, most Pomodoro timers, if you Google them, have a it will go automatically into the 5-minute break that's after. There's some science that says we should only be working on things 25 minutes at a time. I know that's easier said than done when you're in the middle of a writing project or up against a deadline, but if you would like to try it, every 4 Pomodoro, so every 2 hours, you can take a longer break of 15 to 30 minutes. And that helped me for a little while. I do think you have to sort of change up the techniques as well, but that's just me, could be different with you. And so if downloading one of the extensions, this is basically sort of a to-do list that goes along with Pomodoroing, because I can honestly admit that there are sometimes I ignore my Pomodoro timer, which I know will be none of you because you have more discipline than me. But if you make this list in addition to the technique, then it can sort of help you with what you're doing during those 25-minute intervals. So this is just an example one of sort of writing your first draft for 25 minutes, taking that break, checking email and messages, which doesn't seem like writing, but sometimes in the midst of a research project is like a necessary writing exercise. Actually, I'll talk about that later this week, like I mentioned. And then taking care of admin task, checking email again, end of day review and prep for tomorrow, plan guide sort of situation. So this is just an example of using Pomodoro in these 6 different iterations and sort of maybe how the to-do list and the technique can work for you. And so I know that all of you are advanced writers in here, and so this will not be you, but you definitely don't want your writing schedule to be like this meme, which is, can't exactly write a last minute dissertation, right? Which maybe some of us were able to get away with when we were freshmen writing 2-page research papers, right? And so, yeah, I just wanted to give y'all some tips that have helped me. Of course, if you need to contact me, I will show you how you can find me in just a second. We're going to hop on over to the library website. And for those of you, even though this seems like a pretty science heavy group, I did see someone who's sociology. Hi, I'm your librarian. And then Cecilia and I, of course, even though she's in teacher education, she sometimes still works with me based on what she's doing with her study. So y'all are always welcome to reach out to me because I'm in interdisciplinary studies if you need. And at the very least, I can figure out which colleague to maybe sort of patch you through to. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing that just for now. And we will hop over to the library website. Oh, good to know, Sarah. Great. Okay. So I'm going to do a lot of tab hopping, y'all. And I say this all the time just because of the way these interfaces interact. If I start talking about something you can't see, please let me know in the chat and I will make sure that I fix it. So I brought up some resources for all of you that will sort of demonstrate different ways you can not just use the site, but sort of what's there, because I do think I started as a bio baby forever ago as an undergrad and eventually switched over to sociology. And I feel like a lot of times the sciences get left behind when sort of naming what research is out there. So I'm going to show y'all a plethora of things you can use, and this is across everyone who's in here. I think we have everything from chemistry to hospitality to public policy to performance and all points in between. So I kind of pulled some stuff together just for thanks, Dante. I'm glad it's apparent. Just letting y'all know what's out there. So we'll start in bio. These are in no particular order, y'all. I just pulled them up because I want to make sure that you saw them. Okay. Actually, let's start with the main library page. So I'm sure all of you fine researchers have been to the library homepage. If it's been a hot minute, this is what it looks like. Some things have moved around, so I'll just point some things out that you may or may not have seen in a minute. So we've got research borrow request here, which is the way you'll mostly find everything. And I'll sort of take you through the difference between looking for journals, like if you your advisor has some specific journals they think would be helpful to you, how you do that. We have thousands of them, so I would say it's the most probably tedious way to look if you don't have a specific journal. So I would wait to see if you find some good stuff and look that way, but I will show you how anyway. You can look by database, you can look by research guide, and I'll show you what those look like. Also, connection from off campus is a little bit different. Basically, you just have to sign in with your ACE information, but I know sometimes it's easy to forget that, and they've sort of changed the two-factor authentication and stuff. So if you're going to be doing a lot of research from home, just make sure that you know your ACE stuff. And if you've had IT issues, make sure you nip those in the bud before so you can get writing and start writing. There's also things like requesting from another library in something called interlibrary loan. So I will show y'all an example of sometimes you'll see that a record pops up, but then it says we don't have it here. That just means that probably someone in the Western Library Association that we're a part of has it. And so you'll just have to basically go and fill out a form and we will get you the digital copy. It's pretty straightforward. I do think you have to register for an account though. So I like to point that out to people so you don't feel like maybe a seminal work that you need or something is just inaccessible to you. We have it. You just got to do a little bit of work to get to it. And then for any of you who might be doing even remotely some Las Vegas based research mixed into your interdisciplinary stuff, we have the special collections and archives, and the way you search their collections are a little bit different. So I definitely recommend if you're even remotely interested in Vegas based things to pay them a visit up there. They do have some things digitized, but it's not the majority. So it's much easier to go up sort of or send them an email, let them know what you're looking for. They'll pull the boxes for you so you don't have to wait on that. And then yeah, there's all kinds of really neat stuff up there, y'all. So if you're interested in Vegas whatsoever, please give them pay them a visit. We also have some gaming research that obviously is not available in other places. And then there's digital scholarship at UNLV, which is our institutional repository. Of course, you can think of when you're done with your research. If you want to put it in the repository, that's great. You can find some of my research in there if you're interested in what I've done so far. Not required by any means, but it is kind of interesting to see your readership based on who's looking into our digital repository. So I hope that's helpful for you to know. There's also the literal space and technology bit. So you can reserve study rooms. We have some sort of quiet pods if you haven't been to campus in a minute, and you will be in spring, that are like completely silent, that have appeared on I believe it's the second or third floor. You also can look at what computer software and hardware we have. We have some specialized programs, so you don't have to buy those things. If you need help, let's say, coding your research, or you need like CAD software, something like that before you can do your write-ups, we do have some of that stuff. Just know that it's usually limited to 1 or 2 machines kind of thing. So you'll probably want to plan your schedule around doing some coding all in one bit. We also have things that you could use for, let's say, if you have any sort of making in or developing a physical thing as part of your thesis. You can use the makerspace. We have multimedia production areas to include a green screen room and a podcasting area, if that's at all a part of your dissertation or thesis. And then we also have a patent and trademark space. So you end up creating a prototype, let's say, as part of your dissertation process or your thesis process. We also can sort of help you figure out how to patent or trademark it. Okay, and then of course, y'all can get to some of these on your own. This is where it starts to get sometimes confusing because there's multiple things. We're working on clearing it up. But if you want to meet with the librarian, I'm going to show you how to do that. So let's go ahead and open this tab. And this is the part I want to show you just because there are you've got to click between things depending on what it is. And I know I saw some, I think, nursing students in here. And so you might want to meet with some of our health sciences librarians. We do have a nursing librarian, but they just have some different skill sets over at the School of Medicine. We all work together, but they're not necessarily apparent on this list. So we'll use my colleague, Brittany from Fiedler, as an example. If you're looking for me, of course, I am not Brittany, but you can keep scrolling and you'll find me further down. So for everyone, you can see what you can request help for from them. So of course, Brittany's specialties are English 102 in this case, and first year seminars. When you click on schedule appointment for any of us, oh, she must be very busy this week. So let's try Richard. We'll see here. He's our art and architecture studies librarian. So of course he can help with these subjects. Let's see what his schedule is looking like. Oh, you know what? Let's use me because I think I might be one of the few who's updated my schedule. there's a back end way that we have to go make our availability, and I'm guessing people just haven't. So this is me. Of course, y'all know what I look like. These are my specialty areas. When you click on schedule appointment with me, I have a little spiel here going on about sort of having virtual time and in-person time available to you. Everyone's is not this book that I have written, but I like giving everyone details because I think it just makes it easier for us to meet. And basically, if you choose to have there's a process that I go through. I just let you know what that's going to be because it doesn't auto pop up for you the way it auto pops up for me. And sort of how long I'll wait for you to log on if you're coming in person. I personally know things happen all the time. Vegas traffic is crazy. Sometimes you need 5 or 10 minutes. That's totally fine with me. Everyone has their own sort of thing though. So when people do update their availabilities, just make sure you take the time to at least skim their spiel so you know what their expectations are. So right now I have Tuesday afternoons available. Cecilia and I actually will be meeting on the 17th. And so you would open this, see what people's dates are. If you need to select a time, we'll just pretend select this 2 p.m. for me. You'll get a continue. It will give you the summary of who you're meeting with, what's going on, and then you'll put your details. And I would say for you all, especially because I see a lot of dissertations in this group, um, of course, what is your assignment is not necessarily going to sum it up. So, what I would do here is like give a description of really like the meat and potatoes of what you want to be talking about, kind of. And you can always, of course, meet with the librarian more than once. A lot of people meet with us once, just to, I feel like, get it out of the way, but that might be very different if you're doing a dissertation or a thesis. So give as much detail as you can here. Um, I would say probably y'all already have a research question, but if you don't, you of course can click just getting started. And then if you have anything written up, I would say this is sort of a universal form the system makes. You can attach sort of your, if it would be helpful for, let's say you're meeting with me, for me to sort of skim your literature review because you want help with the methodology next or something like that, you're welcome to upload whatever it is to help me help you better. So after that, you would confirm your appointment. It will auto send the librarian an email very often. Sometimes if you have selected the wrong one, so for instance, people mix up Brittany and I all the time, and I work mostly with graduate students and she works with freshmen, right? And so sometimes we will, sort of reroute things, and the librarian you should contact should get in touch with you. Sorry, y'all, my brain is on East Coast time. I was in New York, so my words are coming out choppy. Um, yeah, if there's some sort of shuffling that needs to happen, just sort of pay attention to who's getting in touch with you. If they've switched, then there's a reason. And yeah, that's basically the process. The only time people will not get immediately back to you or sort of send you a usually Google Meet or let you know you're going to meet in there's a glass room in the library on the first floor, is I don't know if something real last minute comes up. For instance, last semester, I think Brittany, in fact, she volunteered to be maybe an undergraduate research symposium judge and got told at the last minute or something. So sometimes that kind of stuff pops up, or our administration has a last minute emergency meeting. It's certainly not y'all, it is us, and they should get a hold of you to reschedule. What I will say is most people's schedules are not like totally open to this. And so, because we are writing and doing other things, right? And so that's why you want to give yourself a lot of time, because I know I can tell you, for instance, for me, I had 4 writing projects myself last semester. And so I think sometimes people think that we're like twiddling our thumbs at our desk, waiting to be asked questions, and that's not usually the case. So just give yourself plenty of time. And if none of the person's appointments happen to work for you, you can always send them an email saying basically that, and most people will find a way to accommodate you in their calendar. Okay. Any questions so far? Because I know I've been talking and talking. Trying to keep an eye on the time. Nope. Wait the cursory 5 to 10 seconds. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go through sort of your subjects and try to make it quick so I don't linger on anyone too far. I tried to get a little something for everyone. So go ahead and reshare my screen. Home tab. Okay, we'll start with biology. So I just kind of navigated over here because I think a lot of times our science students don't even know these exist. This is what you can find on one of our research guides, and so this is a version of this is what they all sort of look like. You basically get there by going to research borrow requests, if y'all remember from the main library page, and there will be a drop down on the regular page that says research guides. Then you'll see an intermediate page that has all the subjects. You just click on your subject area. Some of them have a lot. Some of them have, like, for instance, I think biology just has the biology page. Sometimes your instructors will ask us to make specific ones for classes. You're welcome to use any of them for your own research. It's just the main ones will be less specific to a class or something like that, and sometimes easier to use. So of course you can see getting started, finding articles, web resources, books, data and statistics, which might be interesting to a lot of you all here. Um, there's also sometimes our open access journals are embedded in here if that's at all important to you to use a certain percentage of those in doing your research. And so what you'll usually get at the top is the sort of best bets kind of thing. And so here we've got everything from Agricola, which is a free resource, to Web of Science and Wiley Online Library, which are interdisciplinary databases. For now, Sue Wainscott is sort of the interim sciences librarian, but she mostly focuses on engineering. You're also always welcome to send her an email or call her. Just know her background is engineering and not really chem or biology. So she might be able to help you to an extent. Okay, I wanted to show you what it looks like when you click through one of these databases. And so I hope that you are also seeing Science Direct here, which is one of the links that you're able to click on. I'm sure at this point in your careers, you sort of know what a keyword is, an author name, the journal, book title, that kind of thing. I will say with the physical sciences, I actually think the more of this information you can have, the easier it is, because we all know it's kind of super jargony, depending on what your research area is. So this is an interdisciplinary journal as well, though. So if you don't have a specific thing that you're trying to look for, you of course can look under these headings and it sort of shows you what things are broken down by. So I didn't want y'all to feel like if you don't have, let's say, NMN as your keyword as an anti-aging health product, that you won't be able to find anything. Thankfully, with this one, they've sort of married the super technical and a little bit more of like humanities based keyword searching. So if you've never used this one, this might be a good place for you to start. For some of you who are doing mathematics, I think we've got some math folks in here too. You also can find things in here in physics and things like that. Also for my nursing folks, health sciences, and even for you, Dante, social sciences and humanities are in here. So depending on what it is you're looking for, should be able to find it in something like Science Direct. Okay, I'm sure that y'all get the point, so we're gonna move right along to the next one. Okay, so this is a nursing research guide, and I wanted to show y'all this one because this is like more of a class specific one, I think, that I mentioned. So when you would scroll down the page and find nursing, there will be like a singular nursing one, and then this was for a specific course, of course, depending on whatever your subject is. If it's got a number or something, then probably an instructor asked us to put it together. I'm showing it to you mostly to show you what the difference is, and what they'll be sort of like put together as, and every librarian does it a little bit differently. So because this one is focused on medical surgical patients, it looks like Zan, our nursing librarian, decided to give some PubMed search tips. So for those of you who have never used PubMed, it's sort of a free, I don't want to call it a database. It's a publicly available search engine is probably the better way to put it. And the way that you have to look for it, though, is very, very different than most of the things that we subscribe to. And so you can see here, she's offered some search tips for that. Cinol is another one used in nursing quite a bit. You might have to look by age groups or special interests. So thinking about your subject areas, whatever way you've been doing research up to this point, just think about the jargony sort of I hate to say weird things that are necessary in your subject area when you're looking through these databases. And then here she also has like a guide for looking for evidence-based practice literature, which is going to be quite a bit different than, looking in the quick search or something like that. So just wanted to show you the difference. That's what most of them will look like differently. I've got one more to show in just a second that we'll do with hospitality. That is like very, very detailed. Latika Gray's our hospitality librarian is great. And you will see everybody sort of does it a little different. So let me move on to my next tab real quick. So this is just one more nod to nursing here. I believe this is the Ovid database that I opened up just so you can see sort of the difference in specificity, especially once again for my science-based folks. So you'll want to look in your subject areas or use the research guide mostly because it will do things like save you time as opposed to looking at the quick search. So things like recommended practices, systematic review protocols, or you can see here you could look by something like cancer care or chronic disease instead of having to wade through, for instance, the biological literature. If you're looking for nursing, this gets you from A to Z quite a bit more quickly, so you can do your reading more quickly and get to the writing more quickly. Okay, moving right along to that hospitality guide I mentioned to y'all. So this is Latika's guide for these look like upper level hospitality courses. I wanted to show everyone this one though, because it's on research methodology. And for those who didn't know, we do have a few research methods databases. There is a publishing group called SAGE that has research methodology database. They also do things like local, state, and business stats, if that's going to be helpful to anyone's writing. And so I wanted to show you what Latika's sort of compiled here. She's got, of course, everything from getting started, the regular finding books. For hospitality, sometimes you need things like company reports, market research. She also has a professional papers link that I believe will take you out of the library's site, but that's okay. And then there's things like, I think I mentioned really briefly in my PowerPoint, citation management. So we don't provide data management right this instant until we get a new data librarian, but if sort than doing the old school copy and paste your bibliography. There are some easier and better digital ways you can use things like RefWorks, or especially if you're doing interinstitutional research, which I have done before. Mendeley is great for that. You can invite your people from wherever they are and y'all can all see the same bibliography and add to it and do all kinds of interesting organization that way. So if you've never done that, you definitely are welcome to have a look here. This is in her guide, of course, but we also have a citation guide. So it's in that list of research guides. There's also things like evaluating websites if you need to pull any popular sources into your research. So let's say, I know no one is doing this, but if we had someone doing IT research and they want to use Wired, it's not a technically scholarly journal or anything like that, but it is a respected sort of popular source. So they've gotten trickier and trickier to spot the difference in y'all. So if you need a refresher on evaluating websites, no shade at all. Sometimes we all kind of need it. And then there's really basics like organizing and writing a research paper, and then data and stats, which I will show y'all how to get to just generally, not necessarily in this guide, because for all of your subjects, you might want to find some poll data or data based on many different variables, and we can help you do that as well. Let me check over in the chat real quick. Could you copy and paste the link to the specific web page so I can bookmark it? April, can you explain to me which one you were talking about, and I'll do it before I'm done. Okay. Okay, moving on. So I'm doing one more tab hop, y'all. This is, I want to show you a different way to sort of get to some of this stuff. I had some of these research guides open so you could just see sort of how they're put together differently. This is a different way of searching. So I'm actually going to go back to the home page and hope that this, oh no, hope that this goes back with me. Okay, maybe I won't go back to the home page because technology is technology, and that's okay. So when you are on the homepage, if you don't want to go to the research guides list by subject, what you can do instead is go to research borrow request. The little drop down will drop down if y'all remember. And you can also click on databases instead. And this is what you'll see if you click on databases. So I pulled up hospitality just so y'all could get an idea of how many hospitality specific databases we have, in this case 33. You can also look by all database types if you want to do that instead. So these are narrowed because I've already narrowed to hospitality, but you can look for everything from biographies to images if you need them for whatever reason in your dissertation or thesis. There's also things like industry surveys and then statistics and poll data. So you could do a different subject as well for whatever reason. I think some things are updating now. So I've had that bad request come up a few times before I started with y'all, but yeah, you can do this for whatever your subject area is, or just sort of leave the subject area blank and see what else pops up here, because we also have a longer list when you leave the subject area blank. Um, you can see sorry, you can see you'll get sort of a summary of what the best bets are, probably the easiest to find, whatever it is you're trying to look for at the top, and then it'll go directly into an A to Z list kind of thing here. So yeah, you can use it for any subjects that you have, even my math folks. I'm gonna show y'all, I'm gonna show y'all some journals you have access to. Hang tight. So I'm sure that everyone sort of gets the point here. You can do it for your own subject. I just wanted to show you a different way. Um, just checking the chat real quick. Oh, the one I'm on right now. Thank you, Rachel, for grabbing that. I appreciate it. I want to make sure I'm not just talking and leaving y'all in the dust. Okay, so I'm looking at my time. I know it's running short, so moving on, I'm gonna just show y'all real quick a few other things you can find this way. So for any of you who might find this helpful, Cecilia and I will meet later, but I wanted to show something about teacher education just for her so you could see finding different subjects. We do have a dissertation and thesis specific database. And so we have one that is just general dissertations and theses if you just want to see what other people who are near your subject area have done, even if just how they organize things, or you want to sort of mine their bibliographies. We have a general one, and then we have one that is just UNLV dissertations and theses. So a lot of times people don't know that. Just wanted to point it out to you. If you put in your general subject, of course you sort of see what comes back to you here. You can cite them, you can email them to yourself. The sort of narrowing that I'm sure y'all know how to do at this point, you can narrow by publication date, subject, etc., etc. So if you have any more questions, of course, you can ask about that. But I just wanted to show you really quickly. A lot of people don't usually know that one. For my public policy folks, I wanted to give you an idea of LibGuides for you. So they do sort of look like the others that I've showed. This one is specific to an upper level course, of course, governance and urban community. They do things like have the style guides on here instead, though. Also finding peer-reviewed articles on your topic and how to use Google Scholar. This one is put together by my colleague Susie Scarl. I will say for folks who are sort of in that social sciences but close, like urban affairs sort of thing, Susie does the urban affairs and the public policy, and I get the poli sci for whatever reason. But if for some reason we overlap, you're welcome to reach out to me too. I just wanted to show you all that real quick. Next tab. So I don't know what my performance folks are working on, so I just chose dance because it was the easiest one to display. But we do even have databases for that. We have video databases for anyone. We do have 4 or 5 that you can use video if you need to cite those sources if you would like. You can find things like composition pieces or music indexes if that would be helpful. There's also musical literature. And then there's something called WorldCat, which, without boring y'all too much, is like a international library service. If you really are just trying to like find a source and you can't find it, no matter what your subject is, and we can't ILL it for you, we can consult WorldCat, and if 3 libraries in the world have it, we can ask them how much it will cost, send you a copy or something like that, and if it's reasonable, then we can still get it for you. So just wanted to throw that out there for y'all. Dante for my fellow sociologists, I just wanted to show sort of the journal feature, which you can get to on that main library page, even from the quick search. There's a little tab underneath that says Journals A to Z, or you can see it here. Let's say you are looking up, I don't know, you're going to talk a little bit about global citizenship and sociology. You could start here by looking at citizenship just as a buzzword. And here, thankfully, we only have 8 results on citizenship. A lot of times you'll get hundreds of results back, y'all. So that's why knowing the journal name is usually easier. But let's say you didn't know you were going to do that till a second ago. And so you just want to see what journals talk about citizenship. You can sort of look through here and see what we have. There's everything from statelessness and citizenship to corporate citizenship to citizenship, social, and economics education. So anyone has access to this A to Z journals list. I'll just say it is the most plentiful results list that you probably will get. So you want to have like some sort of narrowed idea to sort of see what we have there. And I promise I'm wrapping it up, y'all. I talked a little bit too much earlier. Okay. So for everyone who is doing statistics and poll data, and this might be also interesting to my math folks, there are other ways you can look. If you remember, I was telling you can leave that all subjects kind of blank and then use this drop down. I knew I wanted to show y'all statistics and poll data, so we're already there, but you can also see things like maps and atlases if you need them. And while our data librarian position is vacant, I just wanted to show y'all sort of where you could look. And I can do some helping with sort of navigating these things. I'm not as good as she was, but I have some ideas because of social research. So we have big conglomerations, like huge data sets, y'all, if you just need to do like massive searching through or sort of coding huge data sets. So we have things like Data Planet, Demographics Now, we've got marketing research even, essential science indicators, everything down to this political and social sciences research. And then as you can see here, I was mentioning the business, local and state research methods in US political stats, if that would be helpful to you at all. There's also a few more. So if you weren't aware of that before now, that could be helpful to you a little bit later. And then, because of course I don't want my math folks feeling left out, we do have a few databases for you actually. And so we have MathSciNet here. If y'all remember, I showed Science Direct earlier. And then there's also, I do not know how to pronounce this, y'all, I won't lie. But it is almost 2 million scholarly articles about physics, math, computer science, quantitative finance, almost any and everything you can think of. So if, in case you didn't think there was a place for you to look for your research, it definitely exists here. And even though our sciences librarian is currently absent, if you really, really need some help, we do also have a statistics center on campus. So let's say you could find the data set you sort of needed and you need someone to sort of help you work it out. I could refer you over there after you find what it is you're looking for. Okay, yeah, I think that is most of what I wanted to tell you. I don't want to take it right up to the last minute. But I hope that that was helpful. I know that was a lot of talking, but I think a lot of times people think of the libraries like helping them with their undergrad research. And of course we do that, but there is a lot of stuff for you to get into in the nitty gritty while you're doing your dissertation and thesis work. So yeah, I hope that was helpful, y'all.
Thank you so much, Brittany.
Yeah, of course.
And as I mentioned in the chat, we will post the presentation, and also we are recording this morning's presentations as well, in case anyone wants to refer back to anything.
Thanks for bearing with my jet lag, y'all. I'm trying to get it together. Good luck
All
this
good. Semester hasn't started yet.
semester.
All right, so next up, we're going to hand it over to Andrew Yim. He's the Assistant Director of UNLV Writing Center, and will be leading us in some writing exercises that are going to really help set us up for this week. So let me just bring him to the stage. Andrew, if you just click the camera on, perfect. There you are.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Nice.
And just let me know when you want me to kind of go back and forth between this presentation and back to the tables for activities.
Okay, no, sounds good. Yeah, so I have a presentation to give today, and then also we'll be working on a Google Doc later on the presentation, so everyone can work on their goals for today and then also for this week. So,
Perfect.
sounds
Thank you.
And then, quick question, Navina: is there any way people can get into breakout groups, or I just want to get a feel for Remo, just like
Yeah, so anytime you want them to work in their writing groups, just let me know and I'll send them back to their tables. So just prompt me and I can go back and forth from when you want to address everyone and when you want them to go to their specific group table and work on the specific exercise.
Okay, perfect. Sounds good.
Mhm.
Okay. All right, yeah, so I'll give everyone another 2 minutes or so. We'll start exactly at 10. Just give you guys a few minutes to stretch your legs. All right, guys, so it's officially 10 o'clock. So let me go ahead and share the two resources that we'll be working with today. So the first thing we'll be looking at is, so here's access to the PowerPoint. Everyone here should be able to see it from their own end. Let me go ahead and share the PowerPoint with you all here. Okay, so this will be the first link we want to work with for today. Yeah, give me a second, guys. Yeah, one of those mornings with technology. Here we go. So here's the Google PowerPoint we'll be working with today. If you guys want to go ahead and open that up. For the actual document we'll be working with later on, we will use that probably towards the later half of the presentation. So let's go ahead and get started. So let me go ahead and see if I can share my screen. Okay, and then Chrome tab should be the reflecting and planning. Okay, perfect. Can everyone go ahead and see my screen? You should be able to. So let me just close this here. Okay, it looks like everyone's in here now. So I'm going to start the presentation. If you guys have any questions for me in the meantime, please let me know in the chat box. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and get started. So let me just make sure. Can everyone see my screen? Yeah, perfect. Sounds good, Navina. All right. Navina said earlier on, my name is Andrew Yim. I'm currently the Assistant Director at the UNLV Writing Center, and we're actually going to be reopening in exactly 2 weeks. So we will reopen on the 23rd. So we'll talk more about that at the end of the presentation. So for today's presentation, we're going to be doing the writing opener, and the purpose of today's presentation is to help all of you guys here think about how do you best reflect and plan for any document you're working on for the Graduate Writing Bootcamp or any future documents moving forward. So within this workshop, we're going to be doing 3 different activities or tasks. So our first task for today is we're going to have you guys do some reflection on your writing and your writing processes. So tasks you're currently working on and steps you need to complete your task. Number two is we're actually going to be talking about your writing processes in your group. So maybe within the next like 15 to 20 minutes, you guys and share your writing processes with each other. And then for the third part of today's workshop, we're going to be doing a reflection activity within your groups and then share them with everyone, which we'll be working on SMART goals, which are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. So we'll talk all about this more throughout the presentation. So the first question I want you guys to all to think about, and feel free to write this in the chat, is why is writing hard? So I'll give you guys all a minute or two to think about this. So the question is, why is writing hard for you as a writer? And in the meantime, I'll switch back to the chat box in a minute or so. All right, so let me see what people have written in the chat box so far. So let's go ahead and head back to the conference. Yeah. So I see a few answers coming through. So yeah, time management, imposter syndrome, expectations, the fear of being wrong or not being able to express yourself, perfect drafts, hard to mind goes off in different tangents. Oh yeah, Dante, that's one that I also struggle with too, right? The one where you know what you want to say, but other people may have a hard time interpreting your words. So as you guys finish up your responses, the reason I asked this question is because, writing can be hard for many different reasons. As I saw in the chat box, time management, imposter syndrome, not knowing where to start, narrowing down your topics. There's a lot of things that can make writing difficult. And I promise by the end of today's session, we're going to be working on how do we set strong writing goals to address this question here. So there's reasons why we have to write a lot, right? So in today's workshop, we're going to be really thinking about your writing habits and how they can best serve. We're also going to be talking about how you can set short, concrete goals for this workshop for today and also for the rest of the week. We're also going to be talking about how do you stick to your goals, making sure that in your schedule you have enough time to write. And I think number 5 in particular is really important, knowing when to say no to somebody. I know everyone here, you might have full-time jobs, you're full-time students. So knowing like when you might have to say no to certain writing responsibilities. We're also going to be talking more about like how do you define writing broadly. And then the last 2, we're going to help monitor your progress for the bootcamp this week. And then finally, we're going to help you guys think about ways that you can start doing your writing. Sometimes with writing, it's hard to start, but once you get into a good flow, you're able to, start and get to your end goal. So I want to talk a little bit about how we actually start setting goals and tasks and for writing bootcamp. So Negretti, who wrote an article in 2012, talks about this idea of metacognition and task perception, where they write that, with task perception and metacognitive awareness, we're encouraging students here to take more initiative in their writing and also self-regulate their writing by developing a personal writing process. So metacognition is really important for today's workshop because number 1, we're really going to be thinking about how your perceived strengths and weaknesses may or may not apply to future tasks. And when we think about metacognition, this is a 5-part cycle that you guys can always refer back to, in the recording or something you do for today's workshop, is all of you will be thinking about the task that you need to complete, which is, assessing the task. And then next, you're using metacognition to really think about, all right, what are my perceived strengths and weaknesses for my task? Then we also take time to approach, right? So you have to think about, what steps or what processes or pieces you need to complete to finish your task. Then you think about different strategies that you might be familiar with, writing, time management strategies that you can apply. And then finally, you take time to reflect and think about how successful or how unsuccessful was my metacognition cycle. And from there, you make adjustments and you do the cycle all over again. So these are 5 steps that you guys can all work with moving forward. So that was just like a little bit of an introduction to what we'll be doing today, and we'll be moving to our first activity, which is reflecting on your practice. So as you guys can all see here, we really want you guys to reflect on your writing practice. And in this first task in particular, the goal is to help you think about, number 1, what are some possible strategies that work well for you? Number, you might also want to be thinking about strategies that you might need to reconsider or revise before you move forward. Number 3, you also want to think about what do you know about yourself as a writer, or what do you want to improve on? Number 4 is you want to think about, what do you know in relation to your works, right? So how do you approach writing for a particular piece? And then finally, you really want to be thinking about your writing process. So in particular, we can start thinking about, reflection. And for me, when I think about strategies that work best for me, the best writing strategy I always utilize is setting aside, 2 to 3 hours in the morning or at night. And then I specifically track, how much time am I spending on my writing piece. If I'm spending X number of hours that I set aside, I feel very accomplished. If I didn't get to those X number of hours, I would need to reflect on to be revised here. So start thinking about, these 5 different areas of the writing process, and we'll move into our first activity. So what you're going to do is you're going to take about, let's say, 7 to 10 minutes. I want you all here on a piece of paper, in the chat box, in a notebook, to and think about some of these questions, because we'll be sharing these groups in a little while. So some questions I want you to think about right now is, number 1, what is a project you're currently working on for the boot camp or for another class? Number 2, thinking about where you are in the project. Are you at the very beginning? Are you in the middle? Or are you at the end? What have you done up until this point in terms of your writing? What do you consider some of your biggest hurdles or challenges to be when you write? Thinking about specifically, when is your next deadline? Is it tomorrow? Is it in a month? Is it in a year? And then specifically for today's workshop and also throughout the week, hope to learn or accomplish from today's workshop or also from the others. Thinking about what are your next steps for your writing, and then specifically thinking about, how do you feel right now? What are you satisfied about with your writing, or what are you nervous about? So in the chat box or on a piece of paper, take about 7 to 10 minutes to go ahead and reflect on these questions, and we'll have time to share these questions with your groups when we get to part 2. And I'll go ahead and set a timer for about 8 minutes. Okay. And then in the meantime, if you have any questions for me, feel free to write them in the chat box. So we have about 8 minutes. Hi, everybody. So it's been about 8 minutes, give or take. So I can give everyone an extra minute or two if you need time to finish up answering these questions. Otherwise, if no one responds to the chat box, if you need more time, we can move on to the next activity. So just let me know. And we can move on, or if you need an extra minute or two, feel free to let me know in the chat box. Okay. So the reason I had you guys do this first activity was because I want you guys to be really thinking about the task you're currently working on for your dissertation or for another assignment. And all these questions can be useful for, future tasks you need to plan for. So that's part one of the activity. So what I want you now to think about is, now that you've thought about some projects you're working on, some of the deadlines you need to complete, and how you feel about your writing, we want to think about part two, which is, what are your processes or pieces that you need to complete? So when I say the word processes, these mean the steps or things you need to do in order to complete your task. And from the earlier reflection, you all thought about maybe an assignment, a course, or something that you're currently working on in your writing. And these are 5 questions that you can also use for this next reflection activity that can be helpful for future writing planning. So number one is, you want to think about, what are some of your most successful strategies when it comes to your learning and writing, and why? Maybe for the assignment in particular or for future assignments. You might also want to consider, what are some of your least successful strategies when it came to your writing, and why? Number 3 is thinking about, what are some strategies that you currently want to try but haven't yet. So what are some strategies that you might have heard about from a friend or from a video that you might want to incorporate into your writing process? Number 4 is, you might want to think about some of the tools that have been helpful for you in your writing process. And when I say the word tools, tools could be like Microsoft Word to write. Tools might be um, certain kinds of journal articles, from the databases that were helpful for you. And then finally, thinking about, when you write, or when you're trying to complete tasks, what environment works for you? Do you prefer working in groups over Zoom? Do you prefer coffee shops? Do you prefer working by yourself in a office for all day? So what we're going to do now is, going off your reflection from part one, I'm going to give you guys another 7 to 8 minutes to think about your processes, and think about, based on all the tasks that you've identified, think about your most successful strategies to complete them, your least successful strategies you want to try, what are some tools that you want to implement, and what is the best writing environment for you. So I'll go ahead and set another timer for about 7 to 8 minutes. And then afterwards, you guys will have time in your groups to share your tasks and processes. And then we'll come back and share them as a group, so you can kind of see where everyone's at. So let me go ahead and start the timer for 8 minutes, and then we'll check back in about 8 minutes or so. All right. Hi, everybody. It's been about 8 minutes. So if you guys need an extra minute or two, just feel free to write in the chat box in the next 30 seconds. Otherwise, we're going to move on to, which is where you'll have time to share both your answers for part one, where you thought about your tasks and you also thought about your processes. So if anyone needs more time, feel free to write in the chat box. Otherwise, we'll move on soon. Sure. Sounds good, Lisa. I'll give you an extra minute. No worries. Let me go ahead and set another timer for myself here. All right. So before we move on to task two, I just want to do like a quick recap of the importance of the task one activity. So for task one, where I had you guys, look at, your processes for this section, and in the previous slide, I had you guys think about, your tasks. All those questions that you see in the PowerPoint and then also in this recording, these are questions that you can use for any stage of the writing process when you're working on future assignments. So hopefully those questions were helpful for you. And part two. So let me go ahead and get the PowerPoint open here. All right. So now what you're going to do is we're going to do something where we're actually going to have you guys get into your groups in the next few minutes. And I'm going to give you guys time to actually share your answers from task one. So the reason it's important to actually share your answers with other people, we call it collaborative reflection. And for the University of Michigan, they talk about how if you occasionally talk to other people about, your reflections and experiences, number one, you can start to see how your own writing processes and tasks are in relationship with other people. And number two, you can actually see how people in your group, what are they currently working on, and what are some strategies that they talk about that you might want to utilize for your future papers. So what we're going to do now is, and this is where I'll need you to help me break everyone into groups, is in your guys' what you're going to do is everyone will share, these 5 different things, what you're working on, what stage of the process you're currently in for an assignment. During your reflection time, maybe talk about what are some of the strategies or tools that work well for you currently. And then number 4 and 5, we'll talk more about this for task 3, but you can start talking about briefly, what do you hope to accomplish for this entire week? And then what are some of your more broad goals for the semester? So what we'll have everyone do is, if we can get everyone into breakout groups, into your guys' groups, I'll give everyone, let's say, 15, 17 minutes to share their answers. And if you need more time, you can go up to 20. So we can make sure we have enough time for part 3.
All right, I'm going to stop presenting now. So you will all be sent back to the tables that you were at the beginning. So that'll be with your group. Dante asked a question on Andrew in the chat.
These questions look a little different. Yeah, so Dante, what you can do for your guys' reflection is that you can use the questions here to reflect on, or you can also use the questions from part 1. It's really up to you. These are just guidelines you can work with. So use these questions here or the ones earlier that you reflected on.
All right, I'm sending everyone back now.
I jumped into different conversations at different times, and I heard good conversations going on overall. So the whole point of the first one and task 2 was for us to all think about, all right, what am I currently doing in my writing process? What are other people doing? And that moves us into task 3, which is actually setting goals for today and also for the rest of the week. And we'll be doing that for the next 33 minutes before we're done at 11:30. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Again, let's get into the PowerPoint. All right, perfect. You guys should be able to see that. And then let me go back to the reflecting and planning document. I think it's this one. Let me just double check. No, it's the other one. Okay, perfect. All right, so moving on to our final task for today. So you guys all shared your reflection. So the last thing I want to go over today is actually setting your goals. And setting your goals is really important because without goals, it's hard to move forward with our writing. And in order to our goals, these are some things we need to keep in mind moving forward. So obviously with today's 2 reflect about, all right, the skills you have or need to acquire, the knowledge you need to build or learn more about, and the resources around you to do so. So the 2 questions you guys all thought about were, number 1, what do you currently have and what do you need? And for part 3 or task 3 for today, we're really going to be thinking about, how can we set goals that will allow you to think about the tools, skills, knowledge, and resources you need moving forward. So in order to do so, this is also, in the notes section of this PowerPoint, there are 2 differences I want to make clear for this third task. So you're going to see these 3 phrases down below. You're going to see the word task, processes, and pieces. So by this time, you all have identified tasks that you're currently working on. So for example, someone here might have said working on a literature review, right? So a literature review is a task you need to complete. And a task can be complete a literature review, write a 5-page paper, read articles to write said paper. But you really want to think about how do you go ahead and complete the task. Words here, processes and pieces. The word processes means the steps or the things you need to achieve to complete your task. So for example, if the task is write a literature review, some of your processes might include, read and synthesize literature, so read and synthesize literature is one. Another one might be, work on MLA or APA reference pages, right? You might think about all the different steps you need to complete your task. And then finally, the word pieces, it's similar to processes in this fact that pieces might be a more specific process. So for example, if you're working on a task, right, literature review, your process is, read and synthesize literature. A piece could be need to read 6 articles and synthesize literature from all 6 articles by 11 o'clock this morning. So when we create our goals, you want to think about the initial task, but you really want to focus on the processes or the pieces of the task themselves. And in order to do so, we're going to go ahead and set SMART goals for today's activity. Before I move forward in the PowerPoint and give you guys some more background information, I'm going to go and send this link to you guys in the chat box. And I'll go ahead and share my screen in a little bit. So if you guys all want to go ahead and click on that link, this is going to take you to a document that you'll be working with for the rest of the week. And let me explain a little bit about the document first. So go ahead and open that document, and then let me go ahead and reshare my screen so you can see the document, what it looks like. Okay, so the document should be under, here we go, spring goals. All right, so you guys are all making your way into the document now. So you're gonna see something called, GRWB Bootcamp Goals Spring 2023. For the first page, you guys can ignore that for now. We're gonna actually come back to it in a little bit. If you guys wanna make your way down to pages 3 through 8, what you guys can do is, look for your name and then look for your group number, right? So group 1, you'll find your name here. group 2, group 3, and then group 4. You are all listed here. So we're going to come back to this document in a little bit, but I just want to make sure that you guys have this on hand as we move forward. So for now, just keep this open in another tab and just make sure that you know where your group is at. And we'll talk about what this document is and how you're going to use it for today's activity. All right. So I'm going to go back to, again, sharing the PowerPoint. So again, thanks guys for waiting. Sometimes with these, Remo and other websites, you have to go back and forth between sharing screens, and that happens. All right, so let me go back and share the reflecting and planning document. All right, so you guys all have access to and the reason it's important to go over the Google Doc is because for today's activity, we're actually going to help you guys set SMART goals, which is specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. And it's really important to note that with SMART goals, that with these 5 different pieces, you're thinking about goals that are on the steps you need to do to complete your task. And a SMART goal isn't a task itself. And I'll talk more about that in a little bit. So whenever we set a SMART goal in particular, we want to think about the specificity of your goal, right? So earlier on, you all wrote your reflections for task 1. Now taking that reflection from task 1, you want to continue to think about, what exactly do I want to achieve? Where, how, when, and with whom? What are the conditions and limitations? Why exactly do I want to reach this goal? And what are some alternative ways of achieving the same? So the thing with specificity is, the specific your goal is, the greater success you're going to have to reach your goal. And I have some examples for you if this is not clear yet. So these are some questions you want to consider when you work on your SMART goals in a little bit. The second thing about SMART goals is you want to be able to measure your goal, right? It isn't just enough to say like, okay, this is my goal. You want to think about how do you actually reach it. So number 1, you want to answer the question, how will you know when you're done with your goal, right? So if your goal is to write a literature review, how do you know when you're done or when you're moving forward? Number 2, you also want to think about what do you need to achieve this goal and what do you need to do to achieve this goal, right? So maybe question 2 is thinking about the resources you need to achieve your goal and then specific steps you need to actually take for the goal to be accomplished. Then for 3, you want to think about, how attainable is the goal, right? How are you going to achieve it? Do you actually have the time, the effort, and the skills needed to complete the task? When you complete your goal or task, do you believe you can complete it all like in a certain time frame? Does it need to be broken up? And then is your goal, achievable enough, or is it too broken up into smaller goals? So for relevancy, you want to also think about, why do you want to reach the goal? What is the objective? Can you actually achieve it? And then again, what are some steps you'll take to move the project forward? So again, you want to think about the relevancy. And then finally, you want to think about how timely are your goals, right? So you want to think about, are your goals realistic? Are you able to work on them now, or do you need to do it in a separate order? And some examples I want to point out is with a SMART goal is not a task, right? Because that's not very specific. Example is you're going to read your literature review. Well, obviously there's a lot of follow-up questions, right? You got to think about how you got to be more specific, you got to be more measurable, more attainable, more relevant, and more timely. So when you create your SMART goals, think back to the either processes or pieces, right? The steps you need to take to accomplish your goal, right? So if you're writing a literature review, one SMART goal might be you're going to map out the survey procedure and then think about the number of participants for the methods section. Or by lunchtime today at 12 o'clock, you're going to specifically read 6 sources that cover your topic, which, if any, can be included in the literature review, right? So SMART goals, they need to be, not just a task, but it needs to be an actual process or piece. So again, I know that's a lot of information to throw at you in 5 minutes. So what you're going to do now for the next, let's say 15, 17 minutes is we're actually going to work planning your action for the rest of the week. So you're going to be thinking about these SMART goals and take time to, think about what you'll do for today, tomorrow, all the way to the end of the week itself. And make sure when you're setting your goals that they're, specific as possible and really focus on the process and peace part and make sure they're realistic. So what you guys are going to do in particular is for today, you're going to be thinking about what are your specific SMART goals for today, tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and also moving forward. So when you go back to your document here, so for example, group one, Sarah, for example, what you can do is you can change your name to another color. So for Sarah, you can change your name to like green, and then it's maybe green's not the best color, but you can change it to whatever, and whatever color under, you can go ahead and write your SMART goals under Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So for each group, you choose, highlight your name, choose a color that you want to write your SMART goals for. And then, I'll give you guys about 15 minutes to work on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And also know if you don't finish this today, this document will be accessible for a very long time. So continue to work on these SMART goals throughout the rest of the week. So that's what you guys will be doing for the next 15 to 17 minutes is work. You're going to work on your SMART goals, and then I'm going to just be here for troubleshooting. If people are having trouble as they write, I'll just start moving boxes around. Okay. So that's what you're doing for the next 15 minutes is working on these SMART goals. Plan out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then as you guys write your text, you guys can change your name to the text that represents what you're writing for, and go from there. Okay. And if you guys have any questions for me, in the chat box. Unshare my screen for now. Share. Okay. Sorry about that. Just trying to share my screen. Sharing. Oh, yes. Is there a question in the chat box? Let me see here. Yeah, and just to let you guys know too, I'll give you guys till about 11:25, so about 13 more minutes to wrap up SMART goals for Monday through Friday, and then we'll come back around 11:25 and wrap up. So in the meantime, if you have any questions, just let me know. I'm going to turn my camera off, but let me know if you have any questions for me. All right, so I've been looking through everyone's SMART goals just through group. I know you might be finishing up, or you might keep finishing up another time. I just want to do a quick review of the SMART goals, just some of the things to keep in mind as you guys keep revising your SMART goals and moving forward. And then we'll get you guys out of here by 11:30. So the one thing I've been noticing through everyone's SMART goals as I went through the different groups is that everyone has, step one, which is like identifying a task. But remember with SMART goals, you want to make sure that you're going to be on the task stage and you're turning it into either like a process or piece, steps that you're going to specifically take to complete your task. So it's one thing just to keep in mind. The second thing to also remind you guys of too is the measurable, attainable part of SMART goals is making sure that some people are giving out some numbers about like, oh, I'm going to do this number of, articles, or I'm going to do this number of things by the end of the day. If you're able to get those 3 to 4 things done, that's great. But also knowing yourself, and also with practice and trial and error, sometimes, like you might only get to one. And that's just something to keep in mind too, is that, make sure you're thinking of a number that is not super high, because that might change depending on how much time you have in the day. And then finally, just to keep in mind like the relevancy, right? So every time you plan a goal or a SMART goal, you really want to be thinking about, how relevant is that goal to my final task or procedure. So those are some of just my general thoughts moving forward. Again, if you have any more questions with your SMART goals, feel free to reach out to me or people in your group for further feedback. So we're going to go ahead and move into the last 2 slides of today's PowerPoint, and then we'll be out of here for today. So let me go ahead and share my screen again. All right. So moving forward, regarding your guys' SMART goals, so refer back to task 1, task 2, and task 3 in the PowerPoint. All of those different things that we did today as a group, those are things that you guys can use for this week or for future assignments. In addition to, just to give you guys some brief background information of the Writing Center. So currently, here is our website link, unlv.edu/writing center. We have all of our information for all of our different appointments. We open officially in 2 weeks on Monday. We also have some handouts that you guys can access or request. We have our staff bios, and we have additional resources and information. So anything you need to know about the Writing Center, feel free to check out our website. In addition to, we also have a service called, so if you can make an appointment or you have a question that will take 10 minutes or less for one of us at the Writing Center to answer, feel free to get in touch. You can send us an email, you can send us a Google chat, or you can also call us. Our number is down below. And finally, if anyone's interested in following our social media handles, we have a Twitter page, an Instagram page, and also a Facebook page. We post a lot to the Instagram page weekly, about the Writing Center. So if you want to follow us up on any of our social media handles, they're all down on this slide here. With that being said, that's the end of our presentation. So again, thank you guys for coming today. And if you have any more questions about SMART goals, reflecting and planning, or any of the activities we did today, feel free to reach out. But that's everything I have for today.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Everyone, we're gonna go ahead and take lunch right now, and we'll see you back here at 12:30, where you can either get started on your writing, or you can join us for any of the optional workshops we're gonna have today starting at 1 o'clock. So we'll see you back in about an hour.